After lunch at Table Mesa, we walked down the Chrystal Bridges Trail toward the viewing platform. It was a lovely day and we enjoyed the art along the way. The museum is really coming along, and we're so excited about the opening, which will be 11/11/11. Well, we could just pee. This Bentonville house was ready for Halloween. The fall color this year was exceptional, and it just seemed to go on and on. We really enjoyed the ride. We ate lunch at Copeland's, which was decorated for Halloween. We celebrated Marilyn's birthday and then did a little shopping before going to the mall to see a movie, which we really enjoyed.
You may know my name, but you do not know the legend. I protect the innocent.
We owe everything to him.
And in my brave but noble quest for justice, nothing will distract me. Oh. You.
Me?
Yeah, baby. Arrest them!
Is it true a cat always lands on its feet?
That is just a rumor spread by dogs!
What would you do without me?
You're not as good as they say. You're better. Me wow. I will see you again, kitty soft paws.
Sooner than you think.
Oh, she is a bad kitty.
We arrived at Kathy's house and found her running a little behind, but we didn't care. We had some lovely little drinks and enjoyed her home, and pretty soon the quiche was ready, and it was delicious. So was dessert. We drove down to Springdale, stopping at a nursery to see what they had. This cardinal had come inside where it was warm. Then we went to Oops, which is always fun, because you never know what you're going to find there. Marilyn got a laser pointer that made patterns to aggravate her kitties. We arrived at the 5x5 show. It was very crowded as usual, but they had good hors d'oeuvres, wine, and beer. We had all entered the show, so we posed next to our respective works of art. Janet with her Delft tile cracked. Me with my blue pot and grapes. Marilyn with her photo of Coral Peony. And Kathy with her quiet reflections. As good as our paintings were, this one stole the show with buku bids. We didn't care, it was a fun day. We arrived at the Chrystal Bridges parking lot real early and were the first ones on the bus that would take us to the museum. What an exciting day. It was a very cold day, but we were so excited we didn't care. The landscaping was lovely. For crowd control, they wound us around through the paths, past some of the outside art, until we finally made it to the front of the museum. The museum's rather industrial-looking finishes are already starting to weather. It will be interesting to see what they look like in a few years. We didn't have to wait outside long, and we're just about the first ones through the door. We entered the first gallery, which was named Celebrating the American Spirit. One of the first things we saw were some unusual paintings of the Levy-Franks family. At this point in time, there are over 1,000 objects in the collection, including this Benjamin West history painting. Chris joined us for a few minutes and told us about the oldest painting in the collection, which was based on an etching. He also mentioned the Copley, which is a portrait of a woman of very questionable virtue. It seems her husbands kept dying very conveniently. Janet was able to fill us in on some interesting facts about the exhibit also, including information about the beautiful frames. We especially loved the floral hummingbird paintings. This painting of a girl and her dog was the closest thing we could find to folk art. This really homely guy is the Marquise de Lafayette by Morse. Here we have a chief called Crouching Eagle and another chief called Husband of Eagle of Delight, both painted by Charles Bird King. Two of the museum's iconic paintings were the Charles Wilson Peale George Washington and the Gilbert Stuart George Washington. Francis Guy painted Winter Scene in Brooklyn. The Life of a Hunter, a Tight Fix by Tate. One of Alice Walton's most controversial purchases was Kindred Spirits by Asher Duran. It is reported that she acquired this painting for $35 million and set up an uproar in Philadelphia. Our timed tickets kept the gallery from being overcrowded. At this time, the objects in the museum range in date from 1650 to 2011. Since Chrystal Bridges is an integral part of the landscape, there were many places where we could look outside and enjoy landscaped areas or other parts of the museum. Just about everybody who's anybody in American art is represented in the museum. Each gallery had a different feel and was a different color. A friend of Marilyn had a relative who once had this huge statue in their dining room. We loved this painting of Indian with a Lily by George DeForest Brush. we decided to have lunch in the restaurant called 11. Its curved laminated beams with skylights made it an interesting space. And lunch was good. We celebrated Janet's birthday with cards and a cute photo of the Fab from Kathy with an IE. Several friends joined us, and we spotted Alice Walton nearby, but we didn't bother her. Janet was really glad that Alice got this painting, Rosie the Riveter by Norman Rockwell, and so were we. Another popular painting is The Lantern Bearers by Maxfield Parrish. Crystal Bridges has more windows than I've ever seen in a museum. We continued our tour, getting closer and closer to the present as we moved through the timeline that the museum presented. Joseph Stella's Red Flower. There were several small Georgia O'Keeffe paintings. A large Alexander Calder mobile captured our attention. Standing Explosion Red by Lichtenstein. I've included the names of as many artworks as I could, but I missed a few. Our Town by Carrie James Marshall, a comment on changing times. We took the huge elevator, went down a corridor, past the upper pond, which wasn't full of water yet, and finally arrived at the contemporary part of the museum, called Wonder World. This painting, with hundreds of birds and an unpronounceable name, was my personal favorite. The Island by Walter Ford was disturbing. Devorah Sperber created this strange masterpiece using 20,000 spools of thread. She called it After the Last Supper. When viewed through the crystal ball, the upside-down work turns right side up. Allison Elizabeth Taylor's room, made completely of wood veneers of different shades of brown, was very interesting. Dress Impressions with Wrinkled Cowl was made by Karen Lamont from Cast Glass. These fluorescent bulbs and the guy sticking out of a wall were probably our least favorite works. Janet said this amazing Andrew Wyeth painting was hot off the easel when Alice purchased it. It's called Airborne. Fairfield Porter's October Interior. Bo Bartlett's Lobster Wars. Jamie Wyeth's Portrait of Orca Bates. John Koch, Studio End of Day, with several details, including the red shoes. Richard Estes, Antarctica. We were fascinated by this painting by Max Ferguson called Time. Mary McCleary's detailed collage entitled The Falcon Cannot Hear the Falconer. Most of the fab could have lived without this Clinton triptych by Chuck Close. Nick Cave created the sound suits from buttons and all sorts of party noisemakers and toys. John Baldestry's Beethoven's trumpet with ear played music if you yelled into it loud enough. The ceiling was designed to look like the gills of a mushroom. We especially liked the jewelry made with real stones and posed with the artist. Valerie's jewelry is affixed to Burpee seed packets. On our way out, we enjoyed a last view of the museum and noticed the plantings on the roof. And there were still crowds of people waiting to get in. On our way to the bus, we enjoyed one last view of Roxy Payne's magnificent 40-foot-tall sculpture called Yield. It was commissioned especially for the museum and was placed correctly on the site thanks to Chris. We love the museum and we'll be back.